Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode, the launch episode of Bayview High School celebrating World Mental Health Day. I would love to welcome you all to a series of episodes that we have where we've dedicated our conversations in talking about the mental health and emotional well-being of the community we all belong to. For that, I would love to first and foremost introduce the team that is here with us today with the dedicated department at Bayview High School, the Emotional Wellbeing team. Hello to everyone, how are you doing?
Good, Aamna, how are you?
I'm well. I'm so excited to have you all here and I'm so excited for everyone to get to know you. All right, so let's do a quick round of, the entire team and to introduce you all. So starting off with you, Sabeen, who is actually our Additional Learning Needs Coordinator here at Bayview High. And along with Sabeen, we also have Sania, who is also an Additional Learning Needs Coordinator at our preschool. Along with Sabeen and Sania, we have Aisha and Shanzeh, who are our school counselors. So let's quickly get to know you guys a little more. Sabeen, starting off with you, can you share what your journey with Bayview High School has been like?
Well, it has been an amazing journey, I must say. First of all, I love working at preschool because I truly believe that preschool is a cornerstone to every child's academics and personal development. So, been a part of that for so many years, most notably at Bayview High preschool, has given me a unique insight into how we can make this difference, how we can make a difference in our children's life, as well as how we can make this learning experience for our little ones more valuable and more effective. So here I am.
It's wonderful, and I know that you recently joined our team, last year, and I think the work that, especially at the preschool level, it's so pivotal because those are the developing years of any child.
Absolutely, yes.
So Sania, since you're also, in the same capacity at Sabeen, working with the preschoolers, so were you able to really connect with what Sabeen just shared, her experience? So do you have a similar one?
I do connect with her, and it's lovely working with the kids. They always bring a smile to your face. And what my role at Bayview High is that I help them, the children, to find what their difficulties they are going through and then support them emotionally and academically.
All right. Thank you so much, Sania. And Aisha, I understand that you and Shanzeh, you're both our school counselors, but you are working with two different age groups, some overlapping, but nonetheless they are different. So starting with you, Shanzeh, if you can first share your experience being in that capacity, or how is it like for you?
It's beautiful, it's heartwarming. I deal with students from grade 3 to grade 8. So while there are some overlaps with Aisha's age bracket, they are small, they are ages 7 to 10 as well. And they have emotional needs, so I support them through counseling as well. And then, of course, I do other supportive work with them.
Yeah, right, I get that. So I guess, like you mentioned, that they're so vastly different in the ages, that you start with the younger lot, but you do have some of the older lot with you as well. What do you feel, which age bracket is it sometimes harder to work with? What in your experience is that like?
I don't find any age bracket particularly hard, to be honest. They're all different, so sometimes it's hard to keep track of the differences. That okay, so now this child is in grade 8, they have their own developmental needs, they're different from grade 6th graders, for example. It's just 2 years apart, but there's a lot of change that's happening. So it's not particularly hard, but it's hard to keep track maybe, but like it's not hard to deal with it. That's how I put it.
That's a very profound reflection, that it's not the experience itself that's hard, but being mindful of the uniqueness of each age and the experiences they're kind of going through. So Aisha, in your capacity, so like we mentioned that you're primarily with the senior school. Do you have a similar vibe to what just Shanzeh shared, or maybe you have a whole other experience? What's that like?
So as Shanzeh mentioned, that there are some overlapping years as well, right? Some overlapping grades. So at senior school, there's grade 6 all the way till grade 11, right? So all the way till their O levels, where the pressure is super high, for the CIEs and everything. For me, I think the one part of my job that I enjoy the most is seeing that growth. So seeing them going from grade 6 to all the way to grade 11, watching them overcoming all of those fears and, all of those conflicts that they've seen and they've had, and, watching them grow, mature, overcome them, and helping them in that process is just heartwarming. And, the connection you make. I always tell everybody and believe that I'm a 12-year-old at heart, So I think it's just, having that connection and connecting with that same age is just fun, and it's an amazing journey like that.
That's so true. I guess when you say that you almost kind of connect with your own inner child working with children, I can really relate to that. So as you know, before being in this capacity as being the emotional well-being team leader, prior to this I was a school counselor with Bayview High School, and we launched in 2019 this department, a dedicated department, part of the school, where we really wanted to focus on the emotional well-being of our students and understanding that they work as a system. We can't isolate them that, okay, these are students, okay, when they go home, they're with the parents. It's actually that all of us combined, we work as a collectivistic system, taking care of and nurturing their well-being. And I guess that's the reason why when this department got launched, we genuinely understood the value of that. Because coming together, that's when we started seeing the genuine differences, the impact that this truly had. So yeah, I genuinely believe, and so this same philosophy, if I can just share a reflection, one of our co-founders, Arij Jafrani, I'm sure we're all familiar with her, and I think we genuinely love that that's where we planted this seed. The seed got planted, and that's where it took off from.
How far we've grown, actually.
And we want to take it further. I think that's what we believe, that we're learning with each passing year, we are growing each passing year, and we're really excited to take it to further heights.
Absolutely.
If we can dive into a few important questions to address some aspects when it comes to the well-being of a child. So Sabeen, if I can first ask you, do you believe that in your experience, 15 plus years of experience at the preschool level, do you believe that there are certain domains that require or warrant more of our attention, where we notice that children might struggle more?
Yes, so the main areas of concern for toddlers and preschoolers are academic domain and social and emotional domains. These are the most pivoted domains in early childhood.
That makes so much sense, yeah. So these are, like, the takeaway can be academic, social and emotional.
Right.
Yeah. So Shanzeh, if I extend this question on to you, how can parents or caregivers, be it teachers or grandparents, anybody who is part of that system of a child, how can they cope with it when they notice that their child might be struggling in either of these domains?
So this is something that we do as counselors. I think this is something that all of us can relate to. When we see a child struggling, let's say in classroom setting, we are going to be collaborating with the parents, we are going to be collaborating with the teachers, and just to get a feeler of how the child has been in all of these domains. So how the child has been with the classmates, for example. So seeing them in their social settings, seeing them in their academic, that's a given, like we can objectively see the grades. And when there is let's say a very drastic decline, a child who normally gets, for example, an 8 on 10, suddenly goes towards a 5 on 10, and it's becoming a persistent thing, then obviously we would want to look into that. We would want to investigate a bit further, and then we try to approach the entire topic with a lot of empathy, a lot of validation, and letting the child know in one way or the other that it's okay and that there's nothing wrong with you, and that we are here to help and facilitate.
Absolutely. I think that's beautifully put. And I guess one other thing that we can reflect on is how these domains can be connected to each other.
Triangular, like you used to say.
The triangular relationship that there is, if someone is emotionally struggling, how it can impact them academically or vice versa. So, kind of being mindful of that connection.
Yes, and also be mindful of their individuality,
Exactly.
their uniqueness.
Their
because
uniqueness.
Each child is unique in their development.
So recognizing that uniqueness,
Yes.
that we also need not compare.
Absolutely, they have
but
different
take
learning
them-
rates,
yeah.
different learning styles, different interests. so-
Absolutely. So Sania, if I can ask that, do you agree with what we just talked about?
Absolutely, I do agree, and it is how it is, and that's why we are here, to make that difference.
That's so well put, that we're here to bring that difference, to generate more awareness as well. So Aisha, if I can just, turn towards you now. You mentioned, I also mentioned that you work with the senior school, and your age bracket is vastly different. They're also hitting those teenage years, and puberty comes into the picture also. How can parents and caregivers kind of handle that or cope with that in a more sensitive manner, knowing how volatile or sensitive this matter can be for a growing child?
I think the best way is to kind of empower them during this process. You know what I mean? So, providing them with articles or with material that you find safe, and sitting with your child and kind of going over the content and creating a safe space for them to ask you those questions. Because I think the best place to kind of gather that information is from a caregiver than, turning to other sources which may be unsafe or unreliable. So creating a safe space and letting that curiosity, come up, helping them answer those curious and those questions that are coming up for them.
So,
I would like
yeah.
to add to that point
Sure,
actually.
yes.
Aisha raised a wonderful point about, empowering them and sort of giving them the safe space and giving them material to deal with whatever situation that might come up. And I realized that sometimes adults don't have all of the answers.
That's
Right?
true.
There's
That's
only
so
so
true.
much we can
Yeah.
do. There's always going to be some point we're going to be like, okay, ab kya karu? So
That's natural.
That's natural, exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that even.
So sometimes just having that comfortable silence where you're with the child and letting them know that, okay, through silence only, letting them know that you're there for them. You may not have all the answers, but you're a part of their process.
And I think what I'm taking away from what both of you have said is that instead of shunning that side down, navigate with them, walk them through that journey rather than either completely excluding it or going into it with unsafe ways.
Be a part of them.
Be a part of it. So navigate.
Because I think what that does is shunning, what that does is it kind of adds shame within certain topics, right? Either that or then they'll turn, they will still seek answers to whatever questions that they're getting, but then they'll get it from unreliable sources or unsafe ways.
Which is even trickier for caregivers to deal with.
Absolutely.
What we do recognize that, screen time, digital and virtual platforms, there's a plethora of them now. I think a lot of parents have said that to us, that either their screen time has gone up or they're watching things or reading things they need not to at that age. It might be inappropriate or unsafe. So if we can help parents also understand how to make that space safer for them, because we do live in a digital world. It's so hard
You can't
to...
take away.
And I think we are, the adults are also models for the child, right? Even as adults, we cannot stay away from the screen. How can we expect our children to do the same, right? So I think just understanding that, okay, screen time is part of our lives now, but also understanding that it doesn't necessarily always have to be bad. You can also use the screen in the best way or in a way to
there are
benefit
pros and
you.
cons of everything, so it depends how you use it.
Absolutely.
Yes, and how you guide your child or navigate your child to use.
And that's so true. When Sabeen chimed in, it can start right at the preschool, for the ages that you both work with, that the screen exposure will start in the younger years, and it goes all the way up to the older years where you're in grade 10s or 11s. And I guess each stage and coping with that for parents would be different.
Obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure, it's going to be different. How parents approach, let's say, a 4-year-old is going to be different from a 14-year-old, and then as we move forward.
And we empathize with caregivers that, it's okay that it feels hard, it's okay. And you also can turn to your support system when you feel that stuckness, that, when my child was, let's say, at preschool, or, when they were in grade 1 or 2, I knew better, I knew how to navigate. now I feel stuck. So I guess another thing we really want, our parents to really take away is it's okay to reach out for help when you feel the need to. As Aisha, you said that we're modeling that for them.
Having that community of support, having your support system or other parents with going through with kids in the similar age or going through similar problems, and connecting with them, relating with each other,
Exactly.
bouncing ideas off of each other. I think that helps you relax a lot more, generate more healthy ideas as well. And then you're also modeling that behavior for your child, that you need a support system around you.
And acknowledging all the feelings as they come up, because
Yes.
a lot of times, when we're talking to parents, it comes up that I told her that she has no reason to feel this way, for example. And that sort of creates friction between the child and creates a
course.
disconnect. So it's important to, for
Let it
parents,
flow.
let it flow, acknowledge the feelings as they come up, that okay, let's move forward from here only.
Absolutely. Aisha, you've shared such a valid point, and absolutely it takes a village, and also being mindful that it's also that village and the people that belong to it, their own mental health, their own emotional well-being that also needs to be nurtured, because we do recognize that when we feel okay, the children around us feel okay, whether we are teachers, whether we are grandparents, aunts, uncles, or parents. It's almost like a two-way street. Everything's interconnected. We do understand that, especially when we were reflecting on teachers, essentially, teachers do have a very big role. So Sania, if you can share a reflection, what's the impact when it comes to a teacher-child relationship?
Teachers have a strong impact on a child life, and they do play a primary role in their developmental years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you when you said primary role, because schooling is a primary caregiving institution. And I guess, Sabeen, we must come to you because you've had, I think, the most vast experience, 15 plus years. So if you can shed some light that when we do talk about the role of a teacher, especially at those early years, what can that be like?
Right. So I believe school, parents and teachers play a vital role in the holistic development of a child. The role that makes connection with the student. So the foundation is actually the relationship that the teacher and the child has. So, the teacher should focus on that first.
On that,
yes.
Yeah, that's a very valid point, that when we work on that, that's like the root of the relationship, is if I'm able to connect with the child, if I'm able to understand the child. But Aisha, I want to ask you this. If we reflect on it, what Sabeen is saying, it's so important, but it can be hard sometimes, for teachers to do that, because there's so many things that come into account. So if you can help teachers and all the roles that are part of a school system, how can they work towards building that connection, those roots, or strengthening their bonds with them?
I think one of the most important things that we can do for a child is acknowledge the small things that they're doing to improve. Encouraging them or acknowledging that, I saw what you did there. I saw that you were trying hard today, or you were paying attention. So acknowledging not just when they get good marks, but also when they're trying and doing the smallest of acts during the day. So encouraging them and keeping that environment in the classroom as a light one. Giving them that space to make mistakes and conveying it through your actions that it is okay to make mistakes. Let's focus on why those mistakes were made and how is it that we can move forward.
Yeah,
like
a journey.
Yeah. And understanding that each child grows at their own pace. So they're essentially competing with their own selves. So let's just say if a child even has had, they got say 2 out of 5 in one quiz, and then they get 3 out of 5, acknowledging that they've grown, right? That they've made that progress, no matter how small. Right? It is the baby steps that we take that eventually get us, where we need to.
And it's not small for them. So I think recognizing that for
sure.
us, we see that as maybe a smaller baby step, like you said. For them, it must be a mountain that they were able to climb.
It's the effort that counts.
It's the effort that counts. One other thing that did come up for me right now, as I said this, that even though teachers want to do this, sometimes there are some barriers for them. It's hard. They're tired. They have so many things that they're juggling at a time.
I think it's too many kids in the classroom as well. It can get overwhelming, or it can get a little bit difficult to do that for each individual child.
Yeah, so they want to be there to make them feel heard, to make them feel held, but it can be hard. So what can teachers do to also be mindful of their own mental health and well-being? How can they take care of their own emotions?
So I think for them to also acknowledge that they themselves are also not perhaps doing the best, and before we allow the kids to make that room, to give them the room of making mistakes, allowing yourself to do the same. It is okay for us to make mistakes, or for us to not have the best of days at all times. It's okay, and taking, sitting with our feelings, processing them, acknowledging them, and then clearing our head and going into the room with a clearer mindset.
And also having avenues outside of your professional role to let that energy out, to kind of let that flow, to channelize that. Because we say that to the students, to the kids also, that if there is pent up energy, what can we do to give them avenues? But that's also true for us as the adults as well.
Taking care of our, well-being is equally
I
important.
think we can't pour from an empty cup, right? The teachers can't be pouring from an empty cup either.
That's beautifully said. And I think Sania agrees. She's nodding. She's like, spot on. Yeah. All right. So, if we take it forward from there to also parents, we focused on teachers and the role they have, the emphasis of their significant contribution. But we also recognize that the home is one of the primary caregiving spaces. So parents and their well-being is also something we definitely take into account. So Shanzeh, if I ask you, how can we, again, strengthen that bond between parent and child? Aisha reflected on teacher and child, but if we focus on the parent-child relation, and also how can parents also take care of their well-being? Because again, not being able to pour from an empty cup.
So I think both of these things can be addressed together. Parents can build a better bond with their kids while addressing their own mental health. And that can be done by bringing out their inner child through engaging with play with their kids. So parents and children sometimes life can get very monotonous, but if you just take a pause and then engage in any activity with the child, let's say playing with Play-Doh or doing puzzles together, whatever brings out your inner child and connects with the child that you have, let's say. And that would really help the parents to de-stress and break the monotony of life, as well as feeling refreshed, and then of course building a connection with their kids. So I think that's a very simple thing that can be done, and they can just go with it and have a better connection with their kids.
So essentially using the language of play, because that's the most natural way that a child knows how to even communicate. So if we are utilizing that channel with them, so it's not only helping the connection building, but it's also helping them de-stress. If they've had a long tiring day after work, or even if they've had errands to run, anything, because life is busy even for parents. We genuinely empathize that they also have a lot on their plate. So this is such a wonderful, something so simple, but beautiful way of de-stressing as well as building connection. Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, Shanzeh, for sharing that perspective. So as we have these profound and heartening conversations, I would also love to shift gears into something fun.
We're ready for that.
Ready? Bring it on. All right, so I had this fun game I wanted to play with you all. You may know what this is. You might have heard of this. It's called Never Have I Ever. Yeah?
Yes.
So I'm going to say a few statements, and if they apply to you, if you feel that is something you have experienced, you can raise your hand that has happened. And if it has not happened, let it pass. Right?
Got it.
Okay. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
All right, let's start. Never have I ever been more reactive than proactive.
Comes very naturally.
I guess it's part of the experience that sometimes we want to be more proactive with something, but especially after a long tiring day, it sometimes instinctually comes out as reactive.
I think one thing in generally, people around us expect to always be proactive. They forget that we're human. We can't be like that. And
So
that
humanizing
reaction
that.
sometimes just comes out naturally.
Very well put. Okay, next statement. Never have I ever taken decisions in the heat of the moment.
I always do that.
Sania says, I've always done that. All right. Never have I ever felt my feelings being invalidated.
Again,
Yes, it happens.
a lot of times.
No.
With the side
And you have to then tell them, no, my feelings are important.
They are important. So I guess this is something that we can take away, that even if sometimes we can't change a difficult situation for someone, we may not be able to rescue them out of it, but just validating that if you feel what you feel, that matters. Yeah. All right. Never have I ever prioritized people over my mental health.
I do that.
Sometimes.
I do that.
I do that,
A lot. I mean, I always give more priority to other people than myself. So yes, I need to kind of work on it.
So self-care. The message we take away
Yeah.
is that we need to practice more self-care, because we also advocate that.
Learn to say no sometimes.
Sometimes, setting healthy boundaries.
Better boundaries.
Better boundaries. All right. Never have I ever felt being emotionally burnt out by things without consideration. Emotional burnout.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overthinking also, that also drains you. That's so true. All right. And the last statement. Never have I ever faced any challenge while spreading mental health awareness.
Of course.
There's always
It's like that, 50-50.
That's very true. So I guess we are seeing progression. We are seeing more and more people incorporate this. Like if you look at Bayview High, the entire program, or having this as a platform, when we did begin, we noticed a change in our parent body and in our teaching and everything, that it's now become a dialogue for us. It's like a day-to-day norm that we must incorporate the mental health and the emotional well-being of all our students and the entire BVHS community.
It's evolved with time.
Exactly, it's evolving. So I agree that there was resistance, there might still be, but we've come a very long way. So on that note, we come to the end of this game. But thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I know that this has been quite a journey for all of us, and we so passionately love to work together. I think the interaction, whenever we come together, it's always there's this spark. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting us, Aamna.
Thank you.
We do, as I mentioned earlier, we do have another team member who unfortunately was not able to be here today as she was unwell. So we do miss her presence, but there's always going to be more that we will be offering in this space. And thank you to our viewers for tuning in. We genuinely hope that all the episodes that will be coming from this point on, you'll be excited to see all the content, and definitely subscribe to the channel for more that's coming your way. Thank you.